The economy can't stand it. We will be in depression. And a final shout out to Max. Yes, Putin understood this. And guess what he's going to start doing, Max? He's going to start pricing his energy in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is digital energy. And it makes sense to sell valuable natural resource commodities or energy for beautiful monetary energy. Why sell it for a worthless fiat dollar, petrodollar, that they don't even have access to when they get blocked on the SWIFT system? So many easy scenarios to play out here, and no one's listening.
Right. Well, on February 26th, effectively the U.S. Seized foreign assets and defaulted on their U.S. dollar obligations. So similar to 1971, when the U.S. defaulted to Great Britain, when Nixon went on the gold, took us off the gold standard. And this began this 50-year experiment of all fiat money, which was really the first time ever you'd had all economies running on a fiat standard, that nobody had any hard money. So, and then on February 26th was really an echo of that moment, the Nixon shock, really, when the U.S. essentially said that the dollar is completely untrustworthy and that we're going to default and we're going to seize reserves of foreign countries whenever we want to. And I just don't think that, Greg, we've talked about convexity before and the central banks. And as a result of the 2008 bailout, they loaded up themselves with a lot of these debts. And, if long-term capital management was leveraged at 100 to 1, the Federal Reserve Bank conservatively is leveraged at 50 to 1, if not closer to 80 to 1 right now. So if they try to take rates anywhere higher, you're going to have massive default at the central bank. The central bank is going to need a bailout. So in 2008, Federal Reserve bailed out Wall Street. They swapped all their bad debts for fresh treasury bills, and they put all that bad debt on the books of the Fed. Now all that bad debt is worth 0 cents on the dollar, and nobody wants to buy U.S. Debt anymore. The U.S. Treasury bond is being vomited from the reserves of countries all over the world. Nobody wants to buy U.S. debt. It's no good. It'd be stupid to buy U.S. debt. China's getting rid of their debt. Russia's gotten rid of all their debt. Japan is a huge basket case. Japan is actually the linchpin that holds together this whole global Ponzi scheme, because they always had the lowest rates, and you could always do that carry trade of borrowing in Japan and putting your money into some other currency and making a positive spread and then leveraging it up 20 times, and you've got this great carry trade. But that looks like that's also blowing up. So, I understand yield curve management. I understand that they can try to bring rates to a higher level, and I can understand, but that presumes that the game has another chapter to it. I don't think there is another chapter to it. I think the Fed goes bankrupt. I think the U.S. goes bankrupt, and I think that that's what we're looking at. And I think this is why there's a lot of countries are beating the war drum right now. There's a lot of saber rattling going on, and there's the U.S. now is going to open up another front against China, as well as the proxy war in Ukraine against Russia. So this is the end of empire stuff, Greg. Yeah. This is like America's had the world reserve currency for 100 years. It's had a great run, but it looks like this could, another 5 years, the U.S. could be pretty much finished.
Yeah, I would concur. I will also say, though, that if the U.S. is done in 5 years, Canada should have been done 2 years ago, okay? And my precursor for the U.S. to fail would be a G7 country. Unfortunately, my beautiful country of Canada will likely be the weak sister amongst the G7 countries that'll be the first to fail, primarily because we have a buffoon as a prime minister who says stuff like, the budget will balance itself. But at the end of the day, let's look at what Max said in the context of all other fiat countries. The USA will be the last fiat to fail. That is highly likely. The second to last will be the European Union, on the basis that Portugal, Italy, Spain, and Greece should have failed already if it wasn't for the Draghi saying we'll do whatever it takes. But yes, Max, it's only mathematics. The debt spiral is increasing. That's pure math. The question is, how long can this go? and nobody knows, so you always have to buy insurance. And this is what I want to point out. Well, two things. First of all, you said foreign central banks are not buying U.S. treasuries anymore. You're absolutely right. The percentage of global assets that are held in U.S. treasuries has declined from 72% of foreign reserve reserve assets to 59% of assets at global central banks. Okay, so that's a meaningful decline, including Japan, that sold something like $60 billion worth of US treasuries in the last quarter. All of this stuff, this carry trade out of Japan, is leading to things that is unsustainable for people to hold US treasuries in a debt spiral. And the buyer of last resort is the quantitative easing and the money printing at the Federal Reserve. But can I point out that based on my model of it valuing the intrinsic value of Bitcoin using credit default swaps, Bitcoin is now worth over $400,000 US per coin as a insurance policy on a basket of global fiats, okay? This is a dynamic measurement that changes as the spreads or the credit insurance premiums change on default for sovereign nations. The USA still the market only charges the USA 16 basis points per year, which is equivalent to $16,000 to insure $10 million of US Treasury debt. You can go all the way down the spectrum and not include Russia, but all the way to Turkey, where the probability of default is very meaningful. But you can accumulate all of these essential fiat risks. You can consolidate them. You get a value for Bitcoin as the most beautiful form of insurance against default on a basket of fiats. And one way I like to point out is, Max, you can essentially get the value of buying protection on the USA for about $1 trillion, and you get all the other fiats for free. And guess what? The value of Bitcoin is less than $500 billion, which means you buy Bitcoin today, you get default protection on the USA and all other fiat currencies for free. Wow, what a deal. Ship it in. People don't understand what a beautiful asset this is, and there is no counterparty risk. You are not buying this from long-term capital management.